Everyone is going crazy about the messiness of secret relationships, and I understand. I'm obsessed with the show still. But this series, When It Rains, It Pours, is on a different level of messiness, mainly because it's so realistic, and some of us can probably relate. And isn't that the most heartbreaking part of this show? A lot of viewers probably saw this show and thought it's just your average BL of two guys getting together, but there's a more important theme to this. Both Hagiwara and Nakarai are in a relationship that has already ran its course. And that's just the most heart wrenching part of a relationship, isn't it? When one or both of the people had already timed out, but no one wanted to end it. Normally, I'm not one for cheating plots. I despise most drama using it as a cheap conflict plot, and most of the time, one of the characters is not fully developed and is obviously just there as a plot device to get the main couple in some sort of disagreement or miscommunication that will expand for the whole series. And worse, the whole thing will be so toxic and problematic or dramatic. I have the same thoughts when it comes to love triangles. One of the characters will be so unimportant that they could be anyone and it would not affect the whole story. 9 times out of 10, cheating in BLs isn't there to explore human flaws or messy love. It's there to stall the story. That's it. The show needed to stir up some drama, and inserting a generic character as a third party is the easiest way to do it. That character is almost always underdeveloped. If your third wheel character can be swapped out with literally anyone and the plot still works, that's not a love triangle, that's just a placeholder. These characters are rarely given any substance or motivation. They exist only to test the lead's relationship or make one of them look temporarily awful so we can have the obligatory reconciliation scene before the finale. Conflict is great when it's earned, but when it feels like a desperate attempt to stretch out the runtime, it's not drama, it's just a filler. A couple of my favorite shows have two of my least favorite tropes. Light on Me has a love triangle, but until the very end, you are rooting for all three of them to have a happy ending, one way or another. Midnight Cheating has two cheating plots, and for someone who's not a fan of Earth and Mix, Midnight Cheating is one of the shows I rewatched on the regular. Because more than Jim and Wen's story, Alan and Wen's breakup is one of the most realistic depiction of a relationship I have seen in BL. If you're going to do a love triangle or cheating plots, then be intentional about it. Show us why it happened, what it reveals about the characters, and show how it impacts them long term. And unless your third wheel is bringing something new to the table, maybe just let the main couple talk it out like a functioning adult. I love that both When It Rains, It Pours and Midnight Cheating. By the way, when I say Midnight Cheating, I mean Moonlight Chicken. Going back, I love that both shows explore the end of a relationship with honesty, weight, and a complete lack of romantic delusion. Almost all BLs center around two main guys getting together, so I appreciate when the show goes against the normal grain and focuses on a different part of a relationship. The entire storyline of When It Rains, It Pours is devastating not because someone cheated, but because it captures something way more painful, the quiet collapse of something that used to matter. Most dramas treat cheating as a single explosive event. Hagiwara and Nakarai's relationship with their significant other is already dying when the story starts, especially Hagiwara's with his girlfriend, and that is what makes it so raw. It's not about who did what, it's about two people who no longer know how to be each other's person. Hagiwara's girlfriend has already timed out of this relationship when the story begins, and Nakarai's non relationship with his best friend Fujisawa is not enough for him anymore. I honestly don't think Fujisawa's love for Nakarai is that kind of love in the first place. Fujisawa's love is fueled by guilt. They are both at a point in their relationship when love is just not enough to fix anything. There's no villains here, just people with flaws and needs, and those needs are not being met anymore. This is so rare in a drama. Breakups are usually just plot devices to stall the couple before the final reconciliation, or the main character breaks up with their current significant other to be with the other main character, and you're rooting for them. But here, the breakup is the plot. This is about the end, the moment when love stops being enough. That kind of emotional weight is so rare in a genre that often prioritizes fan service over emotional reality. This is why I'm so obsessed with Japanese BLs. Their storytelling just hits differently. There's a somber quality to their shows that is not present in other BLs. I feel like I jumped the gun, by the way, so let's talk about the plot, the actual plot of the show. Hagiwara's relationship with his girlfriend Kaori is on the rocks because of the sexual part of their relationship. They haven't had sex for a while and they're not having any kind of conversation about this. Hagiwara is frustrated that his sexual needs are not being met and his girlfriend is avoiding any type of conversation with him. And short of jumping her, he feels like there's nothing he can do about it other than to bear with it. And Nakarai, on the other hand, like I previously mentioned, is in this non relationship with his high school best friend where they are committed to each other, but sex of any kind is not involved. I don't think there's anything romantic about their setup at all. The two of them connected when Hagiwara sent an email accidentally to Nakarai. They bonded through emails, talking about mundane things until they started to open up to each other about the intimate details of their relationship, their frustrations, and they found solace in each other. They've each found someone who understands their needs that they can't seem to share with their respective partners. And that's another great theme of this show, sexual compatibility. People in relationships take it for granted. Let's be honest, sexual compatibility is barely addressed in BL, if at all. And when it is, it's usually reduced to physical attraction, not actual compatibility or communication around intimacy. Most BLs skip over discussions of needs, boundaries, or even desire as something that's negotiated. Characters either fall into bed magically or it never gets acknowledged at all. It's like foreplay, consent, and misalignment of needs are considered too real to be sexy. There's this recurring fantasy in BL that emotional connection equals perfect sexual connection. That if two people fall in love, the rest will just sort itself out. But that's not how actual relationships work. Hagiwara and Nakarai situations show that you can love someone or be committed to someone and still be sexually unfulfilled. That doesn't make you shallow or wrong, it makes you human. Hagiwara's situation is so common as well in relationships. Most of the time, prioritizing sexual gratification feels so wrong and dirty. He's in this long term relationship where the physical side has completely stalled and the emotional safety to even talk about it has vanished. He's not demanding anything wild. He's not even angry, really. He's just sitting quietly with this mounting frustration and guilt, especially if you're like me and you grew up in a very strict Catholic environment. We're taught to equate desire with shame, so when your needs aren't being met, you're made to feel like the villain just for noticing. That's exactly where Hagiwara is, stuck in a dynamic where expressing his needs feels like a betrayal instead of a conversation. But what's really interesting is that the show doesn't frame him as the bad guy. It doesn't paint his desire for intimacy as inherently selfish or immoral. It just presents it as real and complicated and valid because it's not about the lack of sex, it's about the absence of communication, vulnerability, and shared emotional intimacy in the relationship. BLs usually skip this level of honesty. We get to see someone struggle with the fact that emotional love and physical compatibility don't always go hand in hand, and that saying I love you doesn't magically resolve unmet needs. And the fact that this show even dares to explore that without judgment, that's what makes it worth watching. Because real intimacy isn't just about kisses and cuddles, it's being able to say this matters to me and not be shamed for it. Nakarai's non relationship is the perfect example of how not all emotional bonds are romantic and not all romantic bonds are sexually satisfying. I'm not saying that non sexual relationship cannot be fulfilling. Non sexual relationships can absolutely be fulfilling if you're asexual or on the ace spectrum. A bond built on companionship without physical intimacy can be incredibly meaningful, but that's not what's happening here. Nakarai is obviously not asexual. He initially agrees to Fujisawa's proposal of a platonic partnership, just two people living side by side, committed in name. But it's hard not to question the context in which he agreed to it. His parents had just died. He was grieving. He was isolated. And Fujisawa was the only one offering him any kind of connection at the time. I don't think that's real consent. It's survival. It's someone saying yes, not because they want something, but because they don't know what else to do. And it's not even just about the absence of sex, it's about the lack of intimacy. There's no affection, no vulnerability, no space for Nakarai to be truly seen or heard. It's a relationship built on routine and dependency, not on mutual emotional investment. And when you're not allowed to express your needs, when your desire for closeness is quietly ignored or brushed off, it doesn't feel like safety. It feels like loneliness, even if you're in a shared space. What makes this so powerful and frankly refreshing to see addressed in BL is that it's not vilifying Fujisawa. It's not turning this into a villain arc, well, at least not until he sexually assaulted Nakarai. At the start, it's just showing how quiet emotional neglect can be just as painful as overt conflict, and how easy it is to stay in something that looks stable from the outside but is quietly draining you within. In most BLs, sexual chemistry is implied to be automatic. Once they get together, of course, they'll be perfect in bed. But this show challenges that. Love does not equate compatibility. That's a level of maturity we rarely see in the genre. Hagiwara and Nakarai bond not over some steamy meet cute or forced proximity trope, but through a mutual understanding of unmet needs. That's intimacy too, and it's kind of revolutionary, I think, especially for a genre that so often equates intimacy with physical closeness alone. One of the most underrepresented truths in BL is that love alone doesn't sustain a relationship. Emotional and sexual compatibility both matter, and wanting one without sacrificing the other is not selfish. It's reasonable. This show puts that on the table in a way that's quiet, grounded, and surprisingly profound. And it does it without turning anyone into a villain. Well, there were two moments where Hagiwara's girlfriend, Kaori, questioned him for cheating with a man and calling it unforgivable, and when Fujisawa assaulted Nakarai. We could have gone without those two scenes, but here we are. We always say we want mature BLs, and this is what it looks like. Not just sex scenes. It's showing that real intimacy means being seen, heard, and met where you are. That to me is very sexy. I didn't think that I have so much to say about this show. And once again, I did not give an intro. By the way, my name is Nemo-chan. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to my channel for more in-depth talks about your favorite BL series. Drink your water, stay hydrated. Bye-bye.